Here's Jason Chaffetz again, questioning Cass Sunstein. Now, there's a couple of things that you need to know about this. First of all, the president has had a conversation with Mrs. Brady. What's her name? Sarah Brady. James Brady is the guy who was shot during the Reagan assassination, and she has gone for major gun control. And so he is the poster child. So she came up to President Obama, and they were talking, and she said, "What are you doing on gun control?" And his quote is that he is working on gun control. Let me get the exact thing. I want you to know that we're working on it, but we have to go through a few processes, but under the radar.
Oh, that's great.
Excuse me?
That's great. I love that transparency.
I do too. We're going through a few processes, but under the radar. Now, what are the processes? I can tell you. It's Cass Sunstein, the most dangerous man in America, because it's all under the radar. They can pass a law, but the guy who writes the regulation is the one that you have to worry about. This is the way it happens in every communist country. It's the regulation that kills you. That's where Cass Sunstein comes in. Cass Sunstein his fingerprints are on almost everything in our society today. He is the guy who actually believes he can shape our country by himself. Just give me the tools, Mr. President, and I can shape this society. And that's what he's doing. Now, thank goodness, a few members of Congress, and I do mean a few, a handful.
Even I believe a minority of Republicans.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they all respect him. Because the Republicans...
He's very smart.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is.
And I respect him, too. That's why I have respect for a man who I say is the most dangerous man in America. Yeah. This guy is extraordinarily smart. And the reason why the Republicans like him is because the Republicans that like him are the big government Republicans. They're the ones that like, oh man, if we could just get that regulation on our side. No.
Yeah, because you talk about him as a guy who wants to, reshape the society. This is not some, crazy evil thing he's trying to do. He believes through things he calls like choice structure, that he can write things in a way that you'll make the correct choice.
Yeah.
Instead of making it in a way that, you just choose A or B, he writes laws and pushes you, nudges you in the direction of what he believes is the right choice. Right. And he's very good at executing a plan. So Barack Obama has a plan, and there's a law that passed, but he wants something specific to happen. Cass Sunstein writes the regulation in a way to make that happen.
It's why the healthcare bill was 2,000 pages long, but if you read it, it didn't say how it was really going to work. Because every one page of that 2,000-page bill, he is currently writing 4 pages of regulation. This is how your IRS tax book has become 80,000 pages. So you won't be able to understand anything. Now, listen to what Jason Chaffetz said. Remember, Cass Sunstein is the regulatory czar. He is the guy that I believe Barack Obama was talking about when he's talking to Sarah Brady. I just want you to know we're working on gun control. Quote, we have to go through a few processes, but under the radar. Now, with that context, listen to this exchange in Congress yesterday.
Speech, I believe he said, quote, we ought to ban hunting, end quote. Is that something you or anybody in the administration is working on at this point?
Absolutely not.
Stop. The reason why he can say absolutely not is because he's not going to ban hunting. He's going to make it impossible to hunt. He's not banning hunting. He'll make the bullets more expensive, or he'll make the licensing more difficult to happen. He will just make it so heavy with regulation that you just be like, I'm not through that hassle. So you don't ban hunting, you make it a regulatory nightmare to do it.
You had said in your book, or written in your book, Radicals and Robes, quote, almost all gun control legislation is constitutionally fine. And if the court is right, then fundamentalism does not justify the view that the Second Amendment protects an individual's right to bear arms, end quote. Is that something that you or anybody in the administration is working on?
And that quotation actually was from a position, not a position I held at the time. I was describing a position that some other people held. In any case, one thing that's very clear is what academics write in their academic capacity has exactly no appropriate bearing on what government officials do in their governmental capacity.
Love it when they hide behind that.
Oh, I love this too. In other words, I'm in a classroom. I have tenure. What I say has no bearing on anything. Well, hang on. Can I say I'm in a classroom every day and what I say has no bearing? Because I bring up points and I argue different points just as much as any teacher does. So why isn't mine? I've got a chalkboard. Cass, you have a chalkboard. What is the difference? Why can't I say that?
Difference is we just have a bigger classroom. Rather than 35 students, we've got 8 million.
That's the only difference here, Cass. So what is the problem? Why would you try to, what was it, in his paper he talked about, make people into conspiracy theorists. Discredit them by making them into conspiracy theorists if they stand against the administration. Wow, that's weird. What a coincidence that you would believe that in a classroom, and then this administration would do it. What a strange idea. They hide behind, and this is where the Republicans, this is what one of the senators, I can't remember which one senator, said, Glenn, this is academic. He assured me this was all academic. Oh, well, if he assured you, Senator, well, then you know he must be. Well, he's an academic, so he would never lie.
And I appreciate it. That's why I'm asking if those previous positions are something that you're currently working on now. You were, I believe the quote is, you had said, quote, animals should be permitted to bring suit with human beings as their representatives. Is that something you're working on or anybody in the administration is working on?
I'm working on implementation of Executive Order 13563 and not on those issues.
Stop. What is Executive Order 15653?
13563?
Whatever.
Is just an executive order that improves regulation and regulatory review. That's all it does. That's all
that sounds fantastic.
Can you read a little bit of it? What is that?
Yeah,
what is that exactly? When was that signed? That was
signed January 18th of this year.
Of this year. Mm-hmm. So in other words, remember
talk about going under the radar, right?
Yeah,
flying right under it.
When I said last year, okay, now that the Republicans have won, now they've already pushed through. You didn't want any of this structure through, because now what they'll do is now comes the regulatory nightmares. Now Cass Sunstein rolls up his sleeve and goes to work. So the rest of this stuff won't be argued about. It will all be under the radar and all happen under regulation. You remember me saying that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was signed again when? January
18th.
18th of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And what does it say in this executive order?
In this particular executive order it just improves regulation and
That's all it
regulatory
does.
Review. I mean, this is no big deal at all.
No big deal.
General principles of regulation. This is section 1. Our regulatory system must protect public health, welfare, safety, and our environment while promoting economic growth, innovation, competitiveness, and job creation. This is all good stuff. This is all great.
Remember, the job creation that the president likes, it's not defined.
No.
What is the job creation that he believes is the best for the country?
Oh, the most important job is the government job.
Exactly right. So he's creating jobs. Remember, job creation is government jobs. So Cass Sunstein, believe me, can create government jobs.
Plus, it must be based on the best available science.
Oh,
of course. I mean, you don't want the worst available science. You're going to go with the best.
Mm-hmm.
It must allow for public participation and open exchange of ideas. It must promote predictability and reduce uncertainty. It must identify.
What does that mean exactly?
I don't know. It must identify and use the best, most innovative, and least burdensome tools for achieving regulatory ends.
So what does that mean?
I don't know.
Isn't that interesting?
It must take into account benefits and costs, both quantitative and qualitative. It must ensure that regulations are accessible, consistent, written in plain language, and easy to understand. It must measure and seek to improve the actual results of regulatory requirements.
What does that mean?
This all means nothing. Whatever they want.
You want it to mean. And believe me, Cass Sunstein, I can guarantee you, wrote that executive order. He knows what every word means. He is a constitutional scholar. He's a guy who believes in the Constitution is a charter of negative liberties, and it needs to be a charter of positive liberties. In other words, what the government can do and must do, not what the government cannot do. He is going to change the face of this country. So you notice that when they said, is animal rights, is that anything that you're working on?
He did not say no.
He didn't say, no, Senator, I am working. No. He said, are you working on animal rights? I am currently working on executive order, blah, 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 blah. That's what he said.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
And who's been screaming for executive order, blah, 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 blah?
Oh, I'm a huge blah, blah, blah fan myself.
There's been so much.
There's a lot of people that are screaming for a reduction of federal regulation. But that's not what Cass Sunstein does.
And that's not what this executive order does.
But that's what this executive order is trying to make you think it does. Again, Cass Sunstein. He's not just our Office of Regulation. He is also the Office of Information. Cass Sunstein is a Edward Bernays maniac. Loves the whole progressive Bernays movement. Loves it.
And he lives and dies by the idea that he can control information and the choices that you make.
And that you are Homer Simpson.
He believes that. It's his entire fascination in life. He loves it.
And he has said that the average American is Homer Simpson. That's who he believes the average American is. Homer Simpson.
Once we know that people are human and have some Homer Simpson in them, then there's a lot that can be done to manipulate them.
Oh.
Well, yeah.
Well, that is so great.
Good. That's great.
That's what we want out of our government. At least he's transparent.
Yeah.
He's manipulating you.
And we talk about the nanny states all the time, and this is a purest example of it. I mean, think about how you would, your kid, you want them to make the right choice that you think is right, and sometimes you'll present to them both options.
But you will eliminate, one thing you do, and you'll find out because your wife is pregnant and going to have a baby 4 days after.
That's why he can't go to Israel.
I know, that's why he can't go. It has nothing to do with him being a crybaby.
Go to Israel.
He can't go to Israel with us because of that. But you will find when you have a child, you don't present an unlimited. You don't just let them go into the closet and say pick whatever you want. You limit to their choices, and then you can help nudge them into the right one.
And that's a perfectly appropriate way to parent. It's not a perfectly appropriate way to run a government.
No, because we're not children and they're not our parents.
Right.
So
our sponsor this half hour is Food Insurance at foodinsurance.com.